Hi, it's Heather Joy with Perfectly Curated Life. Thank you for joining me today. This afternoon we're going to be making cranberry sauce from scratch. It is almost the eve of the week of Thanksgiving, so I know that a lot of you will be getting your preliminary preparation started this week. So this is a very straightforward recipe. It only takes 10 minutes to make, and it'll keep in the refrigerator if you don't decide to go through the process of canning it. So let me first run through the ingredient list. You have 1 bag of washed cranberries and 1 cup of sugar, about a tablespoon of ginger, and then the zest of 1 orange, the juice of that same orange that I zested, and then lastly 3/4 a cup of water, depending on how much orange juice you were able to extract from the orange. Basically, you want to have 1 whole cup of liquid, and so you'll have to adjust the amount of water depending on how much juice you're able to get from your orange. I use a fresh orange to make the orange juice, but if you only have bottled orange juice, that will do in a pinch as well. So we're just going to turn on the eye, and then we will throw all of these ingredients in at the same time. So let's start with the berries, and then adding the sugar. I will finish up with the solid ingredients by adding in the orange zest and the ginger. And the ginger is fresh as well, and peeled. And then I'm going to add the orange juice. Okay. And the water. And we're gonna bring this up to a boil. And then after it starts boiling, we are going to cook it for 10 minutes. Now, you don't want it to bubble over, so you may have to turn down the heat just a little bit once it starts boiling. But to start with, you're going to put it on a fairly high heat as we're trying to bring it up to a boil. And as I promised the other day, we'd be listening to some lesser known R&B greats, and today we're going to be listening to Neo. You can hear him in the background. I have loved him since he first came out in the latter part of the early aughts, so somewhere around 2007, 2008. And you know, a decade and a half later, he's still making great music. So that's what we have going in the background. After this demo, I'm going to show you an easier than pie apple pie. The real expression is easy as pie because it's very straightforward, but this is even easier because we're going to use some store-bought substitutes and a little bit of creativity to save time and to make a really beautiful presentation, a pie that you can be proud to bring to any table that you'll be gracing. So as we wait for this to come up, I just wanted to remark for a minute that I know this year has been really tough on a lot of people, and this isn't coming out of nowhere. Yesterday, I learned of the tragic and untimely death of the brother of one of my good friends. I knew the brother, and of course my friend I know very well, and I know how devastated he and his family are from the passing of this young man. And you know, all I can say is we can't control most things, we can't prevent many things, but the best that we can do in our daily lives is try to be honorable and to be kind. And I know that some of us at times feel like our nerves are just absolutely frayed, and like, what more can 2020 throw at us? But there's always room for a little bit of compassion, a little bit of grace, a little bit of doing someone a solid and extending yourself. So I would just ask of yourselves, as what I'm asking of myself, to just try and do a little bit more, because we all need that grace and that sense of community right now. Okay, we're back to cranberry sauce. So I hear this starting to make a little noise. It's boiling, or starting to boil. And what's going to happen as these cranberries cook is that they will burst. So they'll get to a certain heat, a certain temperature as it heats up, and they're going to start bursting. So I'm going to take one out right now. So you can see it actually is like a real berry. And that's going to burst, and that insides are a little bit grainy from the seeds that are inside, and those will be part of the sauce. So you can either keep the whole berry with the partially bursted berries, or you can put them through a strainer. So I'm going to show you how to do it first, both ways. If you put it through a strainer, it's a two-part process. If you only want to have the whole cranberry sauce, basically once it's finished boiling, you can put it in a container and then that's it. You serve it when you're ready to eat it. You will keep it in the refrigerator, but you don't have to take any additional steps. So I'm going to let this come to a boil, and when it's about halfway through the cooking process, I will return to you to show you what it's looking like as it's thickening up. Okay, so stick with me. Thank you. All right, I'm back. It's been about 6 minutes. So we have a few minutes more, but I just want to show this to you. So you can see, steam there. It's starting to really thicken up. These don't need any added pectin, which is a gelling agent. They will gel on their own as they start to cool. But even as they're cooking, you can see that they're thickening. So you don't want to overcook this because otherwise it might be too thick and a little bit difficult to serve. I want to show you the vessel. This is just a straight-sided mason jar, and I chose this style because it doesn't have a smaller opening than the actual bottle. So that means that when you try to open it and dispense the cranberry sauce, it'll just kind of come out in one piece. So if you can imagine, it's like a glass version of an aluminum can with no narrowing or tapering at the top. So that's what you want if you're going to can this or keep it in your fridge just for a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving. So this is almost ready. Let me show you the other things you're going to need if you want to create the smooth cranberry sauce. So you're going to have a large bowl of glass or metal, and then you need a strainer and a spoon. I'm going to use a spatula, but basically we're just going to push the cranberries through this mesh sieve, and that'll give us the smooth texture that we want. If you're making this in bulk, like if you decide to do 4 or 5 bags instead of 1, you may want to use a food mill that has a handle on top so that you don't have to push everything through the wire mesh. That makes it a little bit easier if you have one, but for a batch this small, this would be just fine. So I'm going to give this about a minute more, and we're still listening to Neo. Neo had kind of fallen off my list for a year or so. Like I wear songs out, so I'll listen to one playlist in rotation and then pivot and do something else, and I won't come back to that for quite some while. But I heard this song on the radio, and I was like, okay, this is a bop. So this is You to Love. I have to check and see, is singing with someone else. I can't remember the other artist, but I just heard this one this year, and it was like an instant favorite. So that made me think, oh, you know, I love that daggone Neo. Let me put him back in the mix. Okay, so this is just about thick enough. And we have 1 or 2 little cranberries that have not yet popped. They're late bloomers, but most of the others have popped. So let me show you that. So now you can see it's thick, almost like a jam. So I'm going to turn this off. Now I'm going to place my mesh strainer on top of the bowl, and instead of trying to pour it out because it is hot, I want to avoid or to minimize at least the chances of getting burned. I'm just going to use this ladle to scoop this into the mesh and push it through. So some of the liquid will drain out on its own without any physical manipulation, and more will come out once you start pushing it through. So I would say start with about 1/3 of the cranberries. You don't want to put them in all at once. We're going to make it too hard. And let me get this back. So you can see some of the liquid is already starting to come through. And then I'm just going to push gently with the back of this spatula. You can see more of it is coming out. And you will just discard the cranberries once you have extracted all the juice from them. So you're just gonna keep going, and this will yield for each 1 pound bag. You'll get a yield of 1 cup of cranberry juice if you extract it and make the jelly type. If you make a whole cranberry sauce, it'll be about 3 cups of cranberry sauce, okay? So that's that. I'm gonna finish this up and then pour it in, and I will come back to show you how the final product's going to look. So stick with me. Okay, so the sauce is all strained, but in order to make sure that we get all the little itty bitty grainy parts out, we're going to strain it one more time and put the strainer on top of the vessel that you're going to put it in, and then just scoop out the liquid. Let me show you the liquid first. You can see it's like a beautiful color. It's already starting to thicken some because it's cooling, so it's starting to coagulate. And I'm just gonna put this through the strainer one more time while it's still warm to make sure that we have all of the grainy bits up. And this makes a nice little hostess present too. So you could just kind of add a bow to this and a little note to thank your hostess for having you, or host. And call it a gift. So this takes a little bit longer because it's thicker. Let me try it with the spatula. So because it is getting thicker, you still will have to push it through a bit with the spatula. And you can see it's starting to come through. So that's it, guys. You're gonna just do this very simple recipe, jazz it up. Some people want to add peppercorns or hot peppers, or you can reduce the amount of ginger, maybe add some apples. I mean, there's an infinite number of ways that you can customize this and suit it to your taste. So I'm going to finish this up and get ready for the next easier than pie segment. So I will see you shortly.